The crystalline walls of the throne room caught the light from 3 suns and threw it back in patterns that hurt human eyes. Captain Marcus Chen kept his gaze steady despite the pain. The energy shackles around his wrists buzzed with power, but he stood straight as the alien guards pushed him forward. Princess Vexithara sat on a throne carved from a single piece of blue crystal. Her 4 eyes, arranged in pairs on either side of her elongated head, watched the human with interest. Her skin was pale silver and thin membranes connected her long fingers. She wore robes that seemed to float around her body without touching it. "Another human prisoner," announced Commander Zektar, the military leader who had captured Marcus and his squad. "This one led the attack on our supply depot. His soldiers fought with unusual tactics." The princess leaned forward slightly. Around the throne room, other Zeltarian nobles watched from elevated platforms. Their psychic presence pressed down on the human prisoners like a heavy blanket. Most of the captured soldiers had fallen to their knees, overwhelmed by the alien mental power. Marcus remained standing. "Kneel before the princess," Zektar commanded. When Marcus did not move, the commander activated a pain device. Electric shocks ran through the human's body, but he only gritted his teeth and stayed upright. Princess Vexithara held up one hand. "Stop." Her voice carried the musical quality all Zeltharians possessed, but there was something else in it now. Curiosity. She rose from her throne and walked down the crystal steps. Each footstep echoed in the vast chamber. The other human prisoners trembled as she passed them. But when she stopped in front of Marcus, he met her gaze directly. "What is your name, human?" she asked. "Captain Marcus Chen, Earth Defense Force, serial number 7749 Delta. His voice was steady, despite the pain still coursing through his body. The princess tilted her head. "You do not fear me, should I?" A ripple of shock went through the assembled nobles. No one spoke to royalty this way. Commander Zektar reached for his weapon, but the princess waved him back. "I am Princess Vexthara, daughter of Empress Morgana, heir to the Zeltharian Empire. My family has ruled for over 1,000 of your years. We possess abilities your primitive mind cannot understand." Marcus nodded. "I've heard about your psychic powers. Impressive." The princess studied him more closely. Something was wrong here. When she focused her mental abilities on other humans, they usually collapsed or began babbling in terror. This one seemed completely unaffected. "You interest me, Captain Chen. Tell me, why do your people continue this futile war? Our ships are faster, our weapons more powerful, our minds superior." "You cannot win." "Maybe not," Marcus replied, "but that doesn't mean we'll stop trying." "Why?" "Your leaders must know the outcome is certain. Are humans simply too stupid to understand when they are beaten?" Marcus almost smiled. "You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about winning or losing. It's about freedom." "Freedom?" The princess pronounced the word as if it tasted strange. "You serve your commanders just as my subjects serve me. Where is this freedom you speak of? The difference is choice. My commanders earned their positions. Your subjects follow you because they have to." The nobles around the room began muttering angrily. Commander Zektar stepped forward. "Princess, this human insults our entire way of life. Let me execute him now." But Vexithara raised her hand again. For the first time in her life, someone was speaking to her not as a princess, but as just another person. It felt strange, uncomfortable, and somehow fascinating. "Tell me about this choice, Captain Chen." Marcus straightened despite his wounds. "On Earth, people choose their leaders. If those leaders fail, we replace them. Everyone has value, not just those born into the right families." "Impossible," said one of the nobles. "Without proper hierarchy, there would be chaos." "Would there?" Marcus looked directly at the princess. "Or would there be something better?" Princess Vexithara felt something shift in her mind. She had been raised to believe that some beings were simply born superior to others. The royal family ruled because they were meant to rule. It was the natural order. But this human challenged everything she had been taught. He stood before her as an equal, not because he was arrogant, but because he genuinely believed all thinking beings had equal worth. "You speak of dangerous ideas. Captain Chen, truth is often dangerous to those in power." The princess walked slowly around the human prisoner. She tried again to penetrate his mind with her psychic abilities. Most creatures' thoughts were open books to her. She could read their fears, their desires, their memories, but Marcus Chen's mind remained closed to her, not through any special defense, but through simple human stubbornness. "How do you resist my mental probe?" she asked. I don't know what you're talking about. I just don't let anyone push me around, whether it's with fists or with whatever that feeling in my head is supposed to be. The simplicity of his answer struck her. He was not using some advanced technique or technology. He was simply refusing to be controlled. The concept was so foreign to Zeltharian thinking that it took her a moment to understand it. Your Highness, Commander Zektar interrupted. We should execute these prisoners and be done with it. They serve no purpose. Princess Vexithera looked at the other human soldiers. They were young, frightened, but even under the crushing weight of Zeltharian psychic pressure, she could see defiance in their eyes. They looked to their captain for guidance, and he gave them strength simply by standing firm. No, she said finally. Take them to the detention levels. I may have further questions for this one. Princess, I must protest. Are you questioning my judgment, Commander? Zektar's silver skin darkened with anger, but he bowed his head. Of course not, Your Highness. As the guards led the human prisoners away, Marcus turned back for one last look at the princess. For what it's worth, Your Highness, I think you're better than this place. The words hit her like a physical blow. No one had ever suggested that she could be anything other than what she was born to be. The idea that she might choose to be different, better, was completely alien to her thinking. After the humans were gone, the throne room buzzed with conversation. The nobles were upset by the humans' disrespect. Commander Zektar was angry about the princess's decision to spare them. But Princess Vexithera heard none of it. She stood in front of her crystal throne, thinking about choice and freedom and the strange human who had looked at her and seen not a princess, but simply another person. For the first time in her life, she wondered what it would be like to be valued for who she was, rather than what she was born to be. The thought frightened her. It also excited her in a way she did not understand. As the three suns sat outside the crystal windows, Princess Vexithera made a decision that would change everything. She would visit the human prisoners again. She told herself it was for intelligence gathering, but deep down she knew the truth. She wanted to understand what it meant to be free. The detention center lay deep beneath the crystal palace, carved into the living rock of the planet. Princess Vexithara told herself she was going there for official reasons. Intelligence gathering. Understanding the enemy. Nothing more. The guard captain, a massive Zeltharian named Hulvar, bowed as she approached. Princess, what brings you to this place? I wish to question the human prisoners. Their leader showed unusual resistance to our methods. Shall I prepare the interrogation chamber? No, I will speak with him in his cell. Hulvar looked confused but did not argue. He led her through corridors lined with energy barriers. Behind each barrier sat human prisoners, most of them staring at the walls with empty eyes. The psychic pressure in the detention center was designed to break their will, but when they reached Marcus Chen's cell, the princess found him doing something impossible. He was exercising. Captain Chen, she said, and he stopped his push-ups to look at her. Your Highness, come to gloat? I came to understand. She gestured, and Hulvar retreated to a respectful distance. How are you doing that? Doing what? Maintaining your strength. The psychic dampeners in this facility should have broken your spirit by now. Marcus stood and brushed dust from his torn uniform. I guess I'm too stubborn to break. The princess studied him through the energy barrier. 3 days in detention and he still stood straight, still met her eyes without fear. Tell me about your world. Why? Because I want to know what makes humans so persistent. Marcus leaned against the back wall of his cell. Earth is a good place. Not perfect, but good. We have forests and oceans and mountains, cities full of people from different cultures, all working together. Working together? Without a ruling class to guide them? We have leaders, but they're chosen by the people. If they do a bad job, we pick new ones. The concept still seemed impossible to the princess. How do you decide who leads? Surely the strongest or most intelligent should rule. Sometimes they do, but mostly we choose people who want to serve others, not themselves. Serve others? The phrase confused her. Leaders are meant to be served, not to serve. Marcus shook his head. Where I come from, the best leaders are the ones who put everyone else first. They make decisions based on what's good for all people, not just themselves. Over the following weeks, these conversations became routine. Princess Vexithara would find excuses to visit the detention center. Official inspections, security reviews, reports on prisoner conditions. always with legitimate reasons that she could explain to her mother or the court. But the real reason was Marcus himself. He told her about Earth's history, how humans had fought wars against oppression and slavery, how they had slowly learned that all people deserved basic rights and freedoms, how they had built societies where someone's birth did not determine their entire life. On Earth, he said during one visit, a child born in the poorest family can grow up to lead a nation if they work hard and serve others well. That cannot be true. Without proper breeding and training from birth, how could someone rule effectively, the same way anyone learns anything? By studying, by working with others, by making mistakes and learning from them. The princess found these ideas disturbing and fascinating in equal measure. In Zeltarian society, each caste had its place from birth. Workers remained workers. Soldiers remained soldiers. Royalty remained royalty. The idea that someone could change their station in life was completely foreign. "What about you?" she asked one day. "What were you before you became a soldier?" "A teacher. I taught children about science and mathematics." This revelation shocked her. A teacher became a military leader? Emergency situation. When the war started, the Defense Force needed people who could think strategically and inspire others. My background didn't matter as much as my ability to do the job. "But surely you must come from a military family." Marcus laughed, and the sound was warm despite their surroundings. "My father was a carpenter. My mother was a doctor. Neither of them ever fired a weapon in their lives." The princess tried to imagine someone from the worker caste becoming a general in the Zeltharian military. It was impossible. The very idea would be considered insane. During another visit, she witnessed something that changed her perspective even more. Guard Captain Hulvar was abusing one of the younger human prisoners, a teenage soldier who could barely stand under the psychic pressure. "Please," the boy was sobbing. "I don't know anything. I was just following orders." Hulvar raised his energy rod to strike the prisoner again, but Marcus's voice cut through the detention center like a blade. "Touch him again and I'll kill you." The massive Zeltharian turned toward Marcus's cell. "You are in no position to make threats, human." "Maybe not. But that boy is under my protection. You want to hurt someone? Hurt me instead." Princess Vex Thara watched in amazement as Marcus positioned himself between Hulvar and the younger prisoner, despite the energy barrier separating them. His protective instinct was so strong that even imprisonment could not suppress it. "Stand down." "Captain Hulvar," she commanded. "Princess?" "This human needs to learn respect." I said stand down. After Hulvar retreated, the princess approached Marcus's cell. "Why did you do that?" "Because it was right. That kid is scared and alone. Someone needs to look out for him. He is not your blood relative, not even from your clan or region. Why do you care what happens to him?" Marcus looked at her with something like pity. "Because he's human. Because he's young and afraid. Because when you have power, you use it to protect people who can't protect themselves. Even when it brings you no benefit, especially then." That night, Princess Vexthara lay in her floating bed staring at the ceiling of her chambers. Everything Marcus had told her about leadership and service and protection was the opposite of what she had been taught. Yet she could not deny what she had seen with her own eyes. The human captain had risked additional punishment to protect someone weaker than himself. He had offered himself as a target to spare another person pain, and he had done it without thinking, as if such behavior was natural. In Zeltharian society, the strong dominated the weak. It was the natural order. The idea that strength should be used to protect rather than control was revolutionary. She began to notice things she had never seen before. How the nobles treated their servants with casual cruelty. How the military commanders cared nothing for the lives of common soldiers. How her own mother ruled through fear rather than love. "Your Highness seems troubled," observed her personal aide, an elderly Zeltharian named Silvana. "Tell me, Silvana, are you happy serving in the palace?" The question clearly surprised the older woman. "Happy, Princess? I serve because it is my place. Happiness is not relevant. But if you could choose any life, what would you choose?" Silvana looked around nervously, as if the question itself might be treasonous. "I do not understand, Princess. I was born to serve. There is no other choice, Pal, but what if there was?" The aide's confusion was genuine. The concept of choice was so foreign that she could not even comprehend the question. That night, Princess Vexthara visited Marcus again. "I have been thinking about what you said, about choice and freedom, and I think you may be right, but I also think it may be too late for my people to change. Marcus stepped closer to the energy barrier. It's never too late to choose to be better. Even for someone born to rule others, especially for someone in that position, you have the power to change things. The princess looked into his eyes and saw something she had never seen before in anyone's gaze. He looked at her not with fear or calculated respect, but with genuine hope. He believed she could be better than what she was born to be. For the first time in her life, she began to believe it too. The attack came without warning. Just as the three suns were setting behind the Crystal Palace, Princess Vexithara was in her chambers reading reports about human military tactics when the explosions began. Emergency alarms shrieked through the corridors. The palace's defensive systems activated, sending waves of psychic energy to disorient any invaders. But these particular invaders seemed strangely unaffected. Princess! Sylvana burst into the chamber without announcing herself, something that would normally result in severe punishment. We are under attack. Human forces have breached the outer defenses. Vexithara rose quickly, her robes flowing around her. How many ships? None, Princess. They came from underground, tunnels. Our sensors never detected them. The princess felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear for her safety, certainly, but also something else. Pride. The humans had done something her people thought impossible. They had infiltrated the most secure facility in the Zeltharian Empire. Where is Commander Zektar, leading the defense of the main complex? He has ordered all security forces to protect the royal family. Through her window, Vexithara could see energy weapons firing in the distance. The fighting was moving closer to the palace center. These humans were not just conducting a raid. They were coming for something specific or someone. The prisoners, she said suddenly. Princess? They are here for their people. The human prisoners in the detention center. Sylvana looked shocked. Surely they would not risk so much for a few captured soldiers. But the princess understood now. This was exactly what humans would do. They would risk everything to save their own people. It was the same protective instinct she had seen in Marcus when he defended the young prisoner. I must go to the detention center, she said. Princess, no. It is too dangerous. Your mother has ordered you to remain in the protected chambers until I am going to the detention center. The authority in her voice stopped Sylvana's protests. The princess had spoken, and even in the middle of an attack that carried weight. The corridors of the palace were filled with running soldiers and panicked servants. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the crystal walls. The princess moved through the chaos with purpose, her guard detail struggling to keep up. When she reached the detention level, she found it in chaos. Human soldiers in black armor were fighting through the facility with weapons and tactics the Zeltharians had never encountered. They moved in small teams, using the crystal formations for cover, striking fast and disappearing before the defenders could react. Lieutenant Torres, this way. The voice was human, speaking in their harsh but efficient language. Princess Vexithara pressed herself against a wall and watched as a small team of human soldiers fought their way toward the high-security section. They moved with precision and determination, each one willing to risk their life for their comrades. The lead soldier was a woman with short dark hair and scars on her face. She directed her team with hand signals and quiet commands, never raising her voice despite the chaos around them. Captain Chen's cell is in Section 7, the woman said to her squad. We get him out, then we extract all prisoners. No one gets left behind. The princess felt her hearts beating faster. They had come for Marcus specifically, a rescue mission just for one captured officer. In Zeltharian society, individual soldiers were expendable. Commanders might be valuable, but common soldiers were easily replaced. But these humans had risked everything to save their people. She followed at a distance as the rescue team fought their way deeper into the facility. Zeltharian guards fell back before their advance, confused by tactics they had never seen. The humans used flash grenades that overwhelmed Zeltharian senses, smoke bombs that blocked their psychic abilities, and pure audacity that caught the defenders completely off guard. When they reached Marcus's cell, the princess was close enough to hear everything. Captain, Lieutenant Torres called out as she worked to disable the energy barrier. Time to go home, sir. Marcus stepped out of his cell, and the princess saw him smile for the first time since his capture. Good to see you, Sarah. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about us. Never, sir. We don't leave our people behind. As the team worked to free the other prisoners, an explosion shook the entire detention center. Part of the ceiling began to collapse, sending massive chunks of crystal falling toward the humans. Without thinking, Princess Vexithera stepped out of her hiding place and raised her hands. Her telekinetic abilities caught the falling debris, holding it suspended above the rescue team. Every human weapon immediately pointed at her. "Wait," Marcus shouted. "Don't shoot!" Lieutenant Torres kept her rifle aimed at the princess. "Sir, that's a hostile—" "She just saved our lives, Lieutenant." The princess struggled to hold the massive pieces of crystal. Her powers were strong, but the debris was heavy and her concentration was breaking under the stress. "Go," she managed to say. "I cannot hold this much longer." Marcus looked at her with something like wonder. "Why?" "Because you were right. About choice, about being better." The ceiling groaned ominously. More cracks appeared in the crystal structure. "Move," Torres ordered her team. "Everyone out now." As the humans evacuated their freed comrades, Marcus lingered for a moment. "Come with us," the princess met his eyes. "I cannot. This is my home. My people. Your people would execute you for this. Perhaps. But someone must try to change things from within." Another section of ceiling began to fall. The princess redirected her power to catch it, but the effort was too much. She staggered, and the crystal debris began to slip from her telekinetic grip. Marcus started toward her, but Torres grabbed his arm. "Sir, we have to go." "She'll be crushed." "That's her choice, Captain." The princess looked at Marcus one final time. In his eyes she saw respect, gratitude, and something else. Something that made her hearts race despite the danger. "Go," she whispered. With visible reluctance, Marcus allowed his team to pull him away. As the humans disappeared into the smoke and chaos, Princess Vexithera used the last of her strength to guide the falling debris away from their escape route. The crystal slabs crashed to the floor around her, missing her by inches. She collapsed to her knees, exhausted but alive. When Commander Zektar found her there minutes later, she was staring at the hole in the ceiling where the humans had vanished. "Princess, are you injured? What happened here?" "The ceiling collapsed during the attack," she said calmly. "I used my abilities to avoid being crushed. And the prisoners? Gone." The humans were very thorough. Zektar looked around at the destruction, his expression dark with anger. "This is a disaster. The Empress will demand answers. I am sure she will." As rescue teams worked to clear the debris, Princess Vexithera allowed herself to be escorted back to the palace proper. But her mind was not on the damage or the successful human raid. She was thinking about the look in Marcus's eyes when he had asked her to come with them. For a moment she had actually considered it, abandoning everything she had ever known to follow a path she barely understood. The thought terrified her. It also excited her more than anything had in her entire life. Commander Zektar was right about one thing. The Empress would demand answers, and Princess Vexithera would have to decide how much truth she was willing to tell. The humans had escaped, taking with them something more valuable than just their rescued comrades. They had taken her certainty, her unquestioning acceptance of the way things had always been. They had given her the most dangerous gift of all, the knowledge that change was possible. As she walked through the crystal corridors toward an uncertain future, Princess Vexithera realized that she would never be the same. The human soldier had entered her world and changed everything, just as the ancient prophecies had warned. Some changes she was beginning to understand were worth the risk. The debriefing room on Earth Defense Station Alpha was small and sterile, nothing like the crystal grandeur of the Zeltarian Palace. Captain Marcus Chen sat across from Intelligence Colonel Harrison, answering questions he had answered a dozen times already. "Tell me again about the princess," Colonel Harrison said, reviewing his notes. "You said she was different from the other Zeltharians." Marcus shifted in his chair. 3 weeks had passed since the rescue, but he still found himself thinking about Vexithera every day. She was curious about human society, asked questions about our leadership structure, our concept of equality. "And you believe this curiosity was genuine?" "Yes, sir. She saved our lives during the extraction, used her telekinetic powers to stop the ceiling from collapsing on us." Colonel Harrison frowned. "That makes no tactical sense. Why would an enemy princess risk herself to save human prisoners?" Marcus had asked himself the same question many times. "I think she was starting to see us as people rather than just enemies." People don't change their fundamental beliefs in a few weeks, Captain. Maybe not. But she was asking the right questions. The colonel closed his file. Your tactical intelligence about Zeltharian psychology has been invaluable. The Fleet Command is already implementing new strategies based on your observations. What kind of strategies? Psychological warfare. Ways to disrupt their psychic coordination. Methods to exploit their rigid thinking patterns. Marcus felt uncomfortable with this direction. Sir, with respect, I don't think we should underestimate them. Princess Vexithera was intelligent and adaptable. If she's representative of their leadership, she's not, Captain. Our intelligence indicates she's considered unusual even among her own people. The Zeltharian Empire is built on a caste system that hasn't changed in centuries. A few liberal thinkers won't affect their military capabilities. The meeting ended, but Marcus's unease remained. Intelligence was making the same mistake the Zeltharians had made about humans. They were assuming their enemies couldn't change or adapt. Meanwhile, in the crystal depths of the Zeltharian palace, Princess Vexithara faced her own interrogation. Empress Morgana sat on the great throne, her 4 eyes fixed on her daughter with cold intensity. The throne room was emptier than usual. Only the most trusted advisors remained for this private audience. Explain to me again how an entire squad of human prisoners escaped from our most secure facility, the Empress said. As I reported, Mother, they used underground tunnels to breach our defenses. Their tactics were unlike anything we had prepared for. And you were in the detention center, why? Gathering intelligence. I had been questioning their leader about human military strategies. The Empress leaned forward. For weeks you visited these prisoners regularly. What exactly did you learn from these interrogations? Vexithara chose her words carefully. Their resistance to our psychic ability stems from their mental conditioning. They are taught from childhood to value individual will over collective harmony. Dangerous thinking. Perhaps, but it makes them formidable enemies. Empress Morgana studied her daughter for a long moment. Commander Zektar believes there may have been treachery involved in their escape. That someone with access to our security systems provided assistance. The commander sees conspiracy everywhere, Mother. Sometimes the simplest explanation is correct. The humans were more resourceful than we anticipated. The conversation continued for another hour, but Princess Vexithara could tell her mother remained suspicious. She would have to be more careful in the future. That night, alone in her chambers, she accessed the Empire's military communications network. What she found there made her blood run cold. Operation Final Solution was scheduled to begin in 10 days. 3 full battle fleets would converge on New Geneva, a human colony world with over 2 million civilians. The attack was designed not just to destroy the colony, but to send a message to all human worlds about the price of resistance. Princess Vexithara read the tactical plans with growing horror. The bombardment would be thorough and merciless. No attempt would be made to distinguish between military and civilian targets, children, families, innocents who had never fired a weapon in their lives. All would die to satisfy the Empire's need for revenge. She thought about Marcus's words about protecting those who could not protect themselves, about using power to serve others rather than to dominate them. The colony's defenses would never withstand 3 battle fleets, unless they were warned in advance. For 3 days the princess wrestled with her conscience. She told herself that one colony world would not affect the overall war, that her duty was to her people, not to humans, that she had no right to interfere with imperial military strategy, but she could not stop thinking about the children who would die. Human children who laughed and played and dreamed, just like young Zeltharians did. Children who deserved the chance to grow up and choose their own paths in life. On the 4th day, she made her decision. Accessing the Imperial communications array was dangerous but not impossible for someone of her rank. She encoded a simple message using mathematical constants that any advanced civilization would recognize. Prime numbers arranged in a pattern that could not occur naturally. The message contained the complete tactical plans for Operation Final Solution, including fleet positions, attack vectors, and timing. She transmitted it toward human space on a frequency their deep space monitors would detect. Then she waited. The response came faster than she had expected. Long-range sensors detected massive human fleet movements in the direction of New Geneva. They were moving ships from across their territory, leaving other systems vulnerable to concentrate their defenses. They know, Commander Zektar reported to the War Council. Somehow the humans learned about Operation Final Solution. How is that possible? Empress Morgana demanded. The operation was classified at the highest levels. We are investigating, Your Majesty. But in the meantime, our fleets are walking into a trap. The humans will be ready for us. Princess Vexithara kept her expression carefully neutral, as the military leaders debated their options. Some wanted to proceed with the attack anyway. Others recommended postponing until they could identify the security breach. What do you think, daughter? The Empress asked suddenly. All eyes turned to the princess. I think we should proceed, Mother. Human preparedness will not matter against our superior numbers. It was exactly what they expected her to say. What she would have said before Marcus had opened her eyes to different possibilities. The attack proceeded as scheduled. 3 Zeltharian battle fleets dropped out of hyperspace around New Geneva, expecting to find a lightly defended colony world. Instead, they found the largest human fleet ever assembled waiting for them. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, 2 of the 3 Zeltharian fleets had been destroyed, and the third was in full retreat. The Empire had suffered its worst military defeat in generations. This is impossible. Zektar raged at the emergency council session. Our intelligence was perfect. They should not have been able to mount such a defense. Unless, the Empress said quietly, they had perfect intelligence of their own. The investigation that followed was thorough and ruthless. Communication logs were analyzed. Personnel records were reviewed. Loyalty tests were administered to anyone with access to classified information. Princess Vexithara passed every test. Her psychic shields were too strong for casual scanning, and her public statements remained loyal to the Empire. But she knew it was only a matter of time before someone found evidence of her betrayal. More importantly, she realized she did not care. The knowledge that 2 million human civilians were still alive because of her actions filled her with a satisfaction she had never experienced before. For the first time in her life, she had used her power to protect the innocent, rather than to advance her own position. She understood now what Marcus had meant about choice. She had chosen to be better than what she was born to be. The question was whether she would live long enough to make that choice again. Late at night, when the palace was quiet, she would stand at her window and look up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Marcus Chen was probably looking at the same stars, thinking about the war and the future and the possibility of peace. She wondered if he ever thought about her. She wondered if she would ever see him again. But most of all, she wondered what other choices lay ahead of her, and whether she would have the courage to make them when the time came. The human soldier had entered her world and shown her a different way to live. Now she had to decide what to do with that knowledge. The decision, she realized, would define not just her own future, but possibly the future of both their species. The trial of Princess Vexithara was set to be the most significant event in Zeltharian history for centuries. The great throne room had been converted into a court of judgment, with the Empress presiding and the highest nobles serving as judges. Captain Marcus Chen learned about it through intelligence channels 2 days before the execution was scheduled. He was in his quarters on Earth Defense Station Alpha when Lieutenant Torres brought him the decoded transmission. Sir, you need to see this. Long-range intercepts from Zeltharian space. Marcus read the translation twice before the full meaning sank in. Princess Vexithara had been found guilty of treason. The evidence was conclusive. She had transmitted the operational plans for the New Geneva, attack to human forces. She saved 2 million people, Torres said, quietly, and they're going to execute her for it. Marcus stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, human ships moved in formation, preparing for patrol missions and defense operations. Normal military life continuing while somewhere across the galaxy, the one Zeltharian who had shown him kindness faced death for choosing compassion over conquest. Sir? Torres was watching him carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about debt, Lieutenant. About what we owe to people who risk everything to do the right thing. The princess made her choice, sir. She knew the consequences. Did she? Or did we teach her something about moral courage and then abandon her when she acted on it? Marcus turned from the viewport with sudden decision. Get me a meeting with Fleet Admiral Chen and start working on tactical plans for a deep penetration mission into Zeltharian space. Sir, that's what we're going to do, Lieutenant. We don't leave our people behind, remember? And she's one of ours now. The mission briefing took place in Admiral Chen's private office. The family resemblance between the Admiral and Captain Chen was obvious. Same determined jawline, same direct gaze, same tendency to take on impossible challenges. "You want to do what?" Admiral Chen asked after Marcus finished his presentation. "Extract Princess Vexithera before her execution. Sir, she saved millions of human lives. We can't just let her die. Captain, she's not human. She's an enemy alien who happened to make one decision in our favor. She's someone who chose to be better than what she was born to be. Isn't that what we're fighting for? The right to choose?" Admiral Chen studied the tactical plans Torres had prepared. This mission would require penetrating the most heavily defended system in the Zeltharian Empire. The odds of success are minimal. The odds of success for the New Geneva defense were minimal too, sir. She gave us those plans knowing it would cost her everything. Even if we could extract her, then what? She'd be a fugitive from her own people, unable to return home. Marcus met his superior's gaze steadily. Then we give her a new home, with people who value what she did. The debate continued for 2 hours. In the end, it was Admiral Chen's wife who made the difference. Dr. Sarah Chen had been listening from the adjoining office, and when she finally entered the conversation, her words carried the weight of moral authority. "David, if we abandon someone who risked everything to save our people, what does that make us? How are we any better than the empire we're fighting?" 3 days later, a single human stealth ship slipped through the outer defenses of the Zeltharian home system. The crew was small: Marcus, Torres, and 6 specialists in covert operations. Their ship was experimental, designed to avoid detection by Zeltharian sensors. The execution was scheduled for the following day. Princess Vexithera would face judgment in the same throne room where Marcus had first met her, then be taken to the traditional place of execution for royal traitors. "Intelligence reports she's being held in the highest security section of the palace," Torres reported as they approached the planet. "Heavy guard presence, psychic dampening fields, energy barriers at every checkpoint." "What about the execution ceremony itself?" "Public event. The entire royal court will be present, plus military leadership and representatives from major noble houses." Marcus smiled grimly. "Then that's when we make our move. When they're all watching the show." The ceremony began at dawn, with Princess Vexithera being led into the throne room in chains that suppressed her psychic abilities. She walked with dignity despite her circumstances, her head held high as she faced the assembled court. Empress Morgana rose from her throne. "Vexithera, daughter of my blood, you stand convicted of the highest treason. You have betrayed your people, your empire, and your royal heritage. Do you have any final words?" The princess looked around the throne room, seeing faces she had known all her life. Nobles who had taught her, servants who had cared for her, soldiers who had sworn to protect her. All of them now witnessing her disgrace. "I have learned," she said clearly, "that there are things more important than tradition, more important than heritage, more important than power, such as the courage to choose who you want to be instead of accepting who you were born to be." Murmurs of anger rippled through the assembled court. Commander Zektar stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this traitor shows no remorse. I recommend we proceed immediately with the execution." "Agreed," the Empress said. "Let this be a lesson to anyone who—" The explosion shattered the great crystal windows of the throne room. Human soldiers in black armor rappelled through the openings, moving with the same precision and audacity that had marked the prison rescue weeks earlier. "Down. Everyone down!" Lieutenant Torres shouted as her team secured the room. The Zeltharian guards moved to respond, but they were hampered by the presence of so many nobles. The humans had chosen their moment perfectly, attacking when their enemies were concentrated, but unable to fight effectively without risking their own leadership. Through the smoke and chaos, Princess Vexithera saw a familiar figure approaching her. Captain Marcus Chen moved through the battle with calm determination. His weapon trained on any Zeltharian who threatened him, but his attention focused solely on her. "Time to go." "Your Highness," he said as he worked to disable her restraints. "You came back. I told you we don't leave our people behind." The chains fell away, and for the first time in weeks, Princess Vexithera felt her full psychic abilities return. She could have used them to escape on her own, but instead she stayed close to Marcus as his team fought their way toward the exit. "This way," Torres called out, leading them toward the shattered windows. But Empress Morgana was not finished. Rising from behind her throne, She channeled every bit of her considerable psychic power into a crushing mental assault aimed at the human soldiers. Most of them staggered under the attack, but Marcus remained standing. His natural resistance to psychic manipulation, the same trait that had intrigued the princess during his captivity, now saved all their lives. Princess Vexithera stepped between her mother and the humans. "Stop! You dare protect these invaders? I protect people who came to save me when they had nothing to gain and everything to lose." Mother and daughter faced each other across the ruined throne room. Representatives of two different philosophies, two different ways of understanding power and responsibility. "You have chosen them over your own people," the Empress said. "I have chosen conscience over convenience, justice over tradition, love over fear." The word love hung in the air like a revelation. Princess Vexithara realized she had spoken a truth she had not fully understood until that moment. "Then you are no daughter of mine." "No," the princess said sadly. "I suppose I am not." She turned to Marcus, and in that moment she literally forgot her throne. The crystal seat of power, the symbol of her birthright, the center of her entire world. None of it mattered compared to the choice she was making. "I'm ready," she said. The extraction was harrowing but successful. The human stealth ship evaded pursuit and jumped to hyperspace just ahead of the Zeltharian fleet response. By the time the Empire's forces organized a proper chase, the humans were already beyond reach. In the ship's small passenger compartment, Princess Vexithera sat beside Marcus as they traveled toward human space. She had left behind everything she had ever known, her family, her people, her entire identity. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked. She considered the question seriously. "I regret the pain this will cause my people. I regret that change had to come through conflict rather than understanding. But I do not regret the choice itself. What will you do now? You can't go back. Then I go forward. Help build something better than what I left behind." The news of Princess Vexithera's rescue and defection spread quickly through both human and Zeltharian space. In the Empire, it was seen as the ultimate betrayal, but among some of the younger Zeltharians, particularly those in the outer colonies, it sparked conversations about choice and freedom that had never been possible before. 6 months later, Princess Vexithera, now simply Vexithera, having renounced her royal titles, stood beside Marcus in the assembly hall of the United Human Colonies. They were addressing a joint session about the possibility of peace negotiations with reform-minded Zeltharians. "Change is possible," she told the assembled representatives, "but it must come from within. People must choose to be better than what they were born to be." In the audience, Admiral Chen leaned over to his wife. "Think it will work?" Dr. Chen smiled. "Look at them. A human soldier and an alien princess working together to build a better future.